Hey guys, this is McTodgic, back with another episode of the Translucent Plastics Archive. This is a playlist that I'm making where I'm demonstrating and showcasing some of my favorite translucent plastics collection from the late 90s and early 2000s. Today's example is a particularly luxurious, beautiful example of translucent plastic. Well, maybe not luxurious, but certainly something quite eye-catching. It's the Macallai eyeball. It's another product from Macallai, which made a whole bunch of different accessories in the late 90s and early 90s and is still alive today. So you can see the branding there. Now, what is this contraption? Well, if you know much about mice, and particularly what kind of mice people used to love using, well, this is a trackball. It's a mouse where the tracking is done using a ball in the middle. So you actually use that just like you would a trackpad to control the movement. Then you have a left click here and a right click here. And that's it. That's the eyeball. And that's the end of the video. No, it's not. I have more to say. So what is this thing? And what is going on here? So this was made in the late 90s by Macallai. It's meant to be Bondi Blue, though it's not quite Bondi Blue. It's more of a, it's a bit more muted. Now, it was made at around the same time that Macallai was producing all of their translucent products. For instance, the iKey, which I've talked about before, have a look at the color there. You can see that the color scheme is very similar. They had a sort of muted blue that they were using for their products at this time. So it was announced because of the USB revolution taking place in the late 90s, because of the iMac G3. This is another example of it. And Macallai and other companies had already been making trackballs, so it just made sense to produce one in translucent colors with USB connection. And that's what this is. Now, it has a nice translucent cable, which also has some protection on it, which, you know, that sort of braiding stops it from getting destroyed. Though, of course, with the eyeball, with a trackball, you don't actually move it around, you just keep it on the desk. In addition to that, I didn't mention this, but this is not actually an eyeball. It's actually an Eyeball Pro. Now, the design is exactly the same between the two. The only difference between the eyeball and the Eyeball Pro is that the Pro cost a few more dollars and had a higher tracking DPI, I think it was. So essentially, you just paid for a slightly better product. I don't really know why they didn't just update it rather than selling one for a bit more than the other, but that doesn't matter. Unfortunately, I have been trying to use this and I'm just too used to modern mice now. I can't really get my hand around how this works and getting a nice, solid, consistent touch to the tracking of my mouse. So I have mostly just been admiring the design and aesthetic of it more than using it as a practical thing. Now, obviously, the most eye-catching feature of this eyeball is the ball in the middle of it. That ball can be removed by removing this little translucent piece, and then you can just very simply pull out the ball, and there it is. I don't think this has been captured on camera before. It's going to be a little bit hard to capture because of how translucent it really is, but it's really like this glass orb, though it is made of plastic, and really, really beautiful. It's actually quite a blue color, but in the light now you can sort of hard to tell that. It looks a bit more white. Yeah, but it depends on how it's catching the light and where it's positioned, but yeah, that is an absolutely beautiful, beautiful element to this eyeball, and it's totally a joy to use just for that. It feels really nice and smooth as well in the hand, and it's a nice huge size too. It was actually, when I ordered this online from eBay, it was a lot larger than I expected it to be, this whole thing. You can see my hand there. You can see it's actually, well, quite a bit larger than that. So yeah, there's a left and right click. Now, trackballs aren't really made like this anymore because most people realized that putting the ball on the middle and then a left and right click on either side, it's not particularly ergonomic. I suppose that the thumb might be doing left click and the fourth or fifth finger might be doing the right click, and then the other two fingers are in the middle. I just can't really work out how it would be comfortable. So that's usually why most trackballs these days put the ball on the left-hand side, which you control with your thumb, and then you use your other fingers to do the clickings. But yeah, anyway, that is a design from the 90s, and it's quite a nice one. Now, the eyeball was made in two colors. You have this sort of blue, which is semi-Bondi blue, And then Mac-Ally also made one in a graphite color. And that also has a graphite ball, which is quite nice too, but I don't have one of those to show you. So that's the Eyeball Pro, made by Mac-Ally, quite a nice product. You just don't see things like this anymore, do you? You can see that green motherboard PCB in the middle. And you can actually see that the ball can be seen right through that. Really nice. It's really easy to disassemble as well. You can just undo 4 screws and basically the whole thing comes apart. And if you wanted, I saw a post on Reddit of someone who had one of these, and they got the whole cable, which is actually quite long, more than a meter, I think. And they sort of wound the cable inside the product so that it would be as visible. Especially because if you're using an iMac G3, you wouldn't need a long cable anyway. I thought that was a very cool design choice, but anyway, that's just something you can do. That's the Eyeball Pro. So, hope you enjoyed that video, and please subscribe if you want to see more.